Maria Santos stepped off the military transport truck, her combat boots hitting the dusty ground of Camp Phoenix with a solid thud. The desert heat immediately wrapped around her like a suffocating blanket, but she had learned long ago not to show weakness. Her dark hair was pulled back in regulation style, and her uniform was crisp despite the long journey. The other soldiers were already gathering their gear, laughing and joking among themselves. Maria grabbed her duffel bag and followed the group toward the barracks. She could feel eyes on her, studying her, measuring her worth before she had even spoken a word. "Fresh meat," someone whispered behind her, followed by quiet snickers. Maria kept walking, her spine straight and her expression neutral. She had heard it all before at every new assignment. Being one of the few women in combat units meant constant scrutiny, constant testing, constant proving herself over and over again. The barracks were exactly what she expected: rows of metal beds, lockers, and the smell of sweat and cleaning supplies. She found her assigned bunk and began unpacking her belongings with military precision. Her movements were efficient, practiced from years of moving from base to base. Well, what do we have here? Maria looked up to see 3 soldiers approaching her bunk. The one in the middle was tall with blonde hair and cruel blue eyes. His name tape read Jenkins. The other 2 flanked him like loyal dogs, waiting for their master's command. "Sergeant Santos," Maria replied simply, continuing to arrange her gear. Jenkins laughed, a harsh sound that carried across the barracks. "Santos, huh? Let me guess, you're here to prove that girls can fight just as good as boys." Maria folded her spare uniform and placed it in her locker. "I'm here to do my job just like everyone else." "Your job," Jenkins repeated mockingly. "And what exactly do you think your job is, sweetheart?" The word sweetheart hung in the air like a challenge. Maria had dealt with men like Jenkins her entire military career. They saw her gender before they saw her rank, her experience, or her capabilities. "My job is whatever my commanding officer tells me it is," Maria said evenly. One of Jenkins's companions, a stocky man named Rodriguez according to his name tape, stepped closer. "We heard about you, Santos. Word travels fast around here. They say you got those scars from running away from combat." Maria's hand instinctively moved toward her left arm, where several jagged scars ran from her wrist to her elbow. The scars were mostly hidden by her long sleeves, but she knew rumors had a way of spreading faster than facts in military circles. "Is that what they say?" Maria asked, her voice remaining calm despite the anger building in her chest. "Yeah, that's what they say," Jenkins said with a grin. "They say you got scared and ran, got caught in some wire trying to flee. Real heroic stuff." The lie cut deep, but Maria had learned to control her reactions. These men didn't know the truth about her scars, about what really happened that night in Afghanistan 2 years ago. They didn't know about the children she had saved, or the price she had paid for their lives. "Believe what you want," Maria said simply. Jenkins wasn't satisfied with her calm response. He wanted a reaction, wanted to see her break. "Come on, Santos. Show us those war wounds. Let's see what happens when a little girl tries to play soldier." Maria slowly turned to face him fully. Her dark eyes met his with unwavering intensity. "Careful, Jenkins. You might not like what you find when you go looking for trouble." "Is that a threat?" Rodriguez asked, puffing out his chest. "It's a fact," Maria replied. The tension in the barracks was thick enough to cut with a knife. Other soldiers had stopped what they were doing to watch the confrontation. Some looked uncomfortable. Others seemed entertained by the drama unfolding. Jenkins leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a whisper that still carried to nearby bunks. "Listen here, Princess. This isn't some training exercise back home. This is real combat, real danger. Men die out here while trying to protect little girls who think they belong on the front lines." Maria's jaw tightened, but she didn't back down. "I've been in real combat, Jenkins." "Have you?" The question hit its mark. Jenkins' face reddened slightly, and his companions shifted uncomfortably. Maria could see in their expressions that none of them had seen serious action yet. "We'll see how tough you are when the bullets start flying," Jenkins said, trying to recover his authority. "I guess we will," Maria agreed. The standoff was interrupted by the sharp sound of boots on concrete. "What's going on here?" The voice belonged to Staff Sergeant Mitchell, a weathered man in his 40s with graying temples and the kind of presence that commanded immediate respect. The gathered soldiers quickly dispersed, returning to their unpacking and conversations. "Nothing, Staff Sergeant," Jenkins said quickly, "just welcoming the new arrival." Mitchell's eyes moved between Jenkins and Maria, clearly sensing the tension. "Santos, you're with me. The captain wants to see you." Maria grabbed her cover and followed Mitchell out of the barracks. As they walked across the compound, she could feel the weight of stares from other soldiers. Word was already spreading about the new female soldier, about her scars, about the confrontation with Jenkins. "Don't let them get to you," Mitchell said quietly as they walked. "Jenkins has a big mouth and a small brain. He'll settle down once he sees what you're made of." "I can handle Jenkins," Maria replied. Mitchell glanced at her sideways. "I'm sure you can. But handling individual bullies isn't the real challenge here. The real challenge is earning the respect of an entire unit that's been told women don't belong in combat." They approached a concrete building with small windows and a guard posted outside. Mitchell stopped at the entrance and turned to face her. "Captain Williams is a good officer, but he's under a lot of pressure from higher up about having women in his unit. Some people think it's a political stunt. Others think it's a disaster waiting to happen. You're going to have to prove them wrong." "I understand," Maria said. "Do you?" Mitchell asked seriously. "Because proving them wrong doesn't just mean doing your job well. It means doing it better than anyone else without complaining, without making waves, and without giving anyone a reason to say women can't cut it out here." Maria nodded. She had heard variations of this speech at every assignment. The burden of representing all women in the military was heavy, but she had carried it for years. "One more thing," Mitchell added as he opened the door. "Whatever happened to give you those scars, whatever the real story is, it might come up. The captain likes to know his soldiers' histories." Maria's hand moved unconsciously to her arm again. "I'll tell him what he needs to know." "Good," Mitchell said. "Because in a place like this, secrets have a way of becoming dangerous." Captain Williams looked up from his paperwork as Maria entered his office. He was younger than she had expected, probably in his early 30s, with sharp features and intelligent brown eyes. His desk was organized with military precision, and the walls were covered with maps, duty rosters, and commendation certificates. "Sergeant Santos, welcome to Camp Phoenix," he said, gesturing for her to take a seat. "I've been reviewing your file. Impressive record." "Thank you, sir," Maria replied, sitting with perfect posture. Williams picked up a manila folder and flipped through several pages. 2 tours in Afghanistan, expert marksman rating, commendations for bravery under fire. You've served with distinction in some challenging situations." Maria remained silent, waiting for the inevitable questions about her scars, her transfer requests, the rumors that seemed to follow her from base to base. "I'm going to be direct with you, Sergeant," Williams continued. "This unit has never had a female soldier in a combat role. Some of my men are uncomfortable with the idea. Others are openly hostile to it. I need to know that you can handle that pressure." "I can handle it, sir," Maria said without hesitation. "Can you?" "Because handling it means more than just ignoring comments and jokes. It means performing at a level that leaves no room for doubt about your capabilities. It means being better than good enough." Maria met his gaze steadily. "I understand what's expected of me, Captain." Williams closed her file and leaned back in his chair. "Tell me about Afghanistan. Tell me about how you got those scars." The question she had been dreading finally came. Maria took a deep breath, organizing her thoughts. She had told this story before, but never the complete truth. Never the details that woke her up at night sweating and shaking. "It was during my second tour, sir. We were providing security for a humanitarian convoy in a village outside Kandahar. Intelligence said the area was clear, but intelligence was wrong." Williams listened intently as Maria continued. "The convoy was attacked by insurgents using IEDs and small arms fire. The primary target was the medical supplies we were transporting, but there was a school nearby. When the shooting started, the children were trapped inside." Maria paused, remembering the sound of gunfire, the screams of frightened children, the smell of smoke and dust in the air. "My unit was ordered to secure the convoy and wait for reinforcements. Standard protocol was to establish a defensive perimeter and hold position." "But you didn't follow standard protocol," Williams observed. "No, sir. I could see the school from my position. I could see insurgents moving toward it. The children were trapped and our reinforcements were at least 20 minutes away." Maria's voice remained steady, but her hands clenched slightly in her lap. "I made the decision to break from my position and reach the school. There were 17 children inside, ages 6 to 12. Williams nodded, encouraging her to continue. "I managed to get the children out through a back window. But the insurgents had rigged the building with explosives. As I was helping the last child escape, the charges detonated. Maria unconsciously touched her scarred arm. I was caught in the blast. Shrapnel and debris tore up my left arm and shoulder, but all 17 children survived. And what happened to the insurgents? Williams asked. They were eliminated when our reinforcements arrived. The convoy was secured, the medical supplies were delivered, and the village remained under coalition control. Williams was quiet for a long moment, studying Maria's face. That's not the story I've been hearing from other units. Maria's jaw tightened. What story have you been hearing, sir? I've been hearing that you broke ranks, ignored orders, and got injured trying to flee combat. I've been hearing that you're a liability who puts personal safety above mission objectives. The false narrative stung, even though Maria had heard it before. That's not what happened, Captain. I know it's not, Williams said simply. I spoke with your former commanding officer, Colonel Davis. He told me the real story. He also told me why the false version has been spreading. Maria waited, unsure where this conversation was heading. Some people in this military don't want women in combat roles, Williams explained. They're willing to twist facts, spread rumors, and destroy careers to prove their point. Your heroism in Afghanistan doesn't fit their narrative, so they've created a different version. Williams opened another folder on his desk. According to Colonel Davis, you were recommended for a Bronze Star for your actions that day. The recommendation was buried by someone higher up the chain of command. Instead of recognition, you've been transferred from unit to unit, always with whispers following you. Maria felt a mixture of vindication and anger. She had suspected that her transfers weren't random, but hearing it confirmed was both satisfying and infuriating. Why are you telling me this, sir? She asked. Because I want you to know that I judge my soldiers based on facts, not rumors, and because I want you to understand what you're up against here. The men in this unit have heard the false story. They think you're a coward who doesn't belong in combat. William stood up and walked to the window overlooking the compound. I could call them all together and tell them the truth, but that would just make things worse. They need to see for themselves what kind of soldier you are. I understand, sir. Do you? Because what I'm asking of you isn't fair. I'm asking you to prove yourself to men who have already decided you're worthless. I'm asking you to earn respect that should be given freely to any soldier with your record. Maria stood as well. With respect, Captain, that's nothing new. I've been proving myself since the day I enlisted. Williams turned back to face her. This is different, Sergeant. This unit is heading into serious combat operations within the next few weeks. Lives will depend on these men trusting each other completely. If they don't trust you, people die. The weight of responsibility settled on Maria's shoulders like a familiar burden. She had carried it before, and she would carry it again. What do you need me to do, sir? I need you to be the best soldier in this unit. I need you to be better than Jenkins, better than Rodriguez, better than all of them. And I need you to do it without making them feel threatened or humiliated. Williams returned to his desk and picked up a training schedule. You'll start with weapons qualifications tomorrow, followed by tactical exercises and team-building drills. These men will be watching your every move, looking for any sign of weakness or failure. I won't give them one, Maria said confidently. I hope not, because if you fail, it won't just reflect on you, it will be used as proof that no woman should ever serve in combat. Every female soldier who comes after you will have to overcome the precedent you set. The pressure was enormous, but Maria had learned to thrive under pressure. I understand the stakes, Captain. Williams studied her for a moment longer, then nodded. I believe you do. Dismissed, Sergeant. Get some rest. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. Maria saluted and turned to leave, but Williams called her back. One more thing, Sergeant. That tattoo on your shoulder, the one mentioned in your medical records. What is it? Maria paused, her hand moving instinctively to her right shoulder where the tattoo was hidden beneath her uniform. It's personal, sir. Personal things have a way of becoming public in close quarters like this. Just be prepared for questions. Maria nodded and left the office, her mind already racing ahead to the challenges that awaited her. She had faced skeptical soldiers before, had proven herself in combat before, had overcome prejudice and doubt before, but something about this assignment felt different. More crucial. As she walked back toward the barracks, she could see groups of soldiers talking in hushed tones, their conversations stopping when they noticed her approach. The rumors were already spreading, growing and changing with each telling. Tomorrow, the real test would begin. The shooting range was alive with the crack of rifle fire as Maria approached the next morning. Dawn had broken over Camp Phoenix with its usual harsh beauty, painting the desert landscape in shades of gold and orange. She had been awake since 0430, running laps around the compound while most of the other soldiers were still sleeping. Staff Sergeant Mitchell was waiting for her at the armory, along with a clipboard and what appeared to be the entire unit gathered around the shooting lanes. Word had spread quickly about the weapons qualification test, and it seemed everyone wanted to see how the new female soldier would perform. "Morning, Santos," Mitchell said, handing her an M4 carbine. "Standard qualification course. 40 targets at various distances, 40 rounds. You know the drill." Maria accepted the weapon and quickly inspected it with practiced efficiency. The rifle was clean and well-maintained, exactly what she expected from a professional unit. She could feel dozens of eyes watching her every movement, looking for any sign of hesitation or unfamiliarity with the weapon. "Showtime," someone whispered from the crowd, followed by quiet laughter. Jenkins pushed his way to the front of the group, his arms crossed over his chest and a smirk on his face. "This should be interesting. Let's see if our new teammate can actually hit what she's aiming at." Rodriguez stood beside him, equally skeptical. "I heard women have trouble with the recoil on the M4. Something about upper body strength." Maria ignored the comments and moved to the firing line. She adjusted her protective gear, checked her stance, and loaded her first magazine with smooth, practiced movements. The familiar weight of the rifle in her hands was comforting, almost meditative. "Targets will appear at ranges from 50 to 300 meters, Mitchell announced. "You have 60 seconds for each engagement. Standard Army qualification scoring applies." Maria nodded and shouldered her weapon. The first target popped up at 50 meters, a standard silhouette that she acquired and engaged in less than 2 seconds. The shot was perfect center mass. The second target appeared at 100 meters. Another clean hit. By the 5th target, the murmuring from the watching soldiers had stopped. By the 10th, they were paying serious attention. By the 15th, even Jenkins had stopped smirking. Maria moved through the course with mechanical precision, her breathing controlled, her movements economical. Each shot was deliberate, each hit was perfect. She had trained for thousands of hours on ranges just like this one, had qualified expert on every weapon the Army had given her. The longer range targets required more careful aim, but Maria's technique never wavered. 300 meters, 250, 200. Each silhouette fell with a single well-placed round. "Jesus," someone whispered. "She hasn't missed once." Maria was in what soldiers called the zone, that perfect state of focus where everything else disappeared except the target and the weapon. Time seemed to slow down, allowing her to make minute adjustments to her aim, to compensate for wind and distance with instinctive precision. The final target appeared at the maximum range, 300 meters in a crosswind. It was a challenging shot even for experienced marksmen. Maria took her time, feeling the wind on her face, calculating the adjustment needed. She squeezed the trigger gently, following through with perfect form. The target dropped immediately. The range fell completely silent. Mitchell walked down to check the targets, his expression unreadable. The watching soldiers followed him, crowding around to see the results. Maria stayed at the firing line, cleaning her weapon with the same methodical precision she had shown while shooting. 40 targets, 40 hits, Mitchell announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Perfect score. Expert qualification." The silence continued for several more seconds before someone started clapping. Others joined in, creating a ripple of applause that spread through the group. It wasn't enthusiastic, but it was respectful acknowledgement of exceptional performance. Jenkins wasn't clapping. His face was red with embarrassment and anger. "So she can shoot targets," he said loudly. "Big deal. Let's see how she does when those targets are shooting back." The comment broke the spell of Maria's performance, reminding everyone that marksmanship was only one part of being a combat soldier. Several soldiers nodded in agreement with Jenkins' assessment. "Careful, Jenkins," called out a voice from the back of the group. "Keep talking and she might shoot you next." The joke drew some laughter, but the tension remained. Maria finished cleaning her weapon and turned to face the group. "Who's next?" she asked simply. "I'll go," Jenkins volunteered immediately. "Let's see if I can match the expert here." Jenkins took his position at the firing line with exaggerated confidence, making a show of checking his weapon and adjusting his stance. The crowd watched with renewed interest, clearly hoping for a competition between the established soldier and the newcomer. The first few targets went well for Jenkins. He was a competent marksman, hitting most of his shots in the scoring rings. But as the range increased and the pressure mounted, his accuracy began to suffer. Several shots missed completely, and others barely caught the edge of the targets. By the time Jenkins finished his course, he had managed 34 hits out of 40 attempts. It was a respectable score for most soldiers, but it paled in comparison to Maria's perfect performance. Not bad, Mitchell said diplomatically. Sharpshooter qualification. Jenkins' face was even redder now, his humiliation complete. He had challenged the new soldier publicly and had been decisively outperformed in front of the entire unit. Lucky day for her, he muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. Rodriguez stepped up next, determined to restore some pride for his friend. He was a better shot than Jenkins, but not by much. 36 hits, still well short of Maria's perfect score. One by one, other soldiers took their turns at the range. Some shot well, others struggled, but none came close to matching Maria's performance. She had set a standard that would be difficult for anyone to reach. As the morning progressed, Maria began to notice a change in how the other soldiers looked at her. The open mockery was gone, replaced by a mixture of respect and wariness. She had proven that she could shoot, but that revelation brought its own complications. Santos, Mitchell called out as the qualification session was ending. Captain wants to see you in his office. Maria nodded and handed her weapon back to the armory sergeant. As she walked away from the range, she could hear conversations starting up behind her. Did you see that shooting? 40 for 40, man. That's incredible. Makes you wonder what else she can do. But not all the comments were positive. She caught fragments of other conversations, darker in tone. Show off. Trying too hard to prove something. We'll see how tough she is in real combat. Maria kept walking, her expression neutral. The weapons qualification had been exactly what she needed. A clear, objective demonstration of her capabilities that left no room for argument. But she knew it was only the first step. Captain Williams was waiting for her in his office, along with a man she didn't recognize. The stranger was older, probably in his 50s, with silver hair and the kind of bearing that suggested high rank even without visible insignia. Sergeant Santos, Williams said as she entered. I'd like you to meet Colonel Harrison. He's here to observe our training operations. Maria came to attention and saluted. The colonel returned the salute with a slight smile. At ease, Sergeant. I've been hearing some interesting things about your performance this morning. Just doing my job, sir, Maria replied. 40 out of 40 targets, Harrison said. That's not just doing your job. That's exceptional marksmanship. Maria wasn't sure how to respond to the praise, so she remained silent. Harrison studied her for a moment, his eyes moving from her face to her scarred arm and back again. Tell me, Sergeant, what do you think of your new unit? They're professional soldiers, sir. I'm confident we'll work well together, even after this morning's reception. Maria considered her words carefully. Every unit has its adjustment period, sir. I expect this one will be no different. Harrison nodded approvingly. Diplomatic answer. But I'm more interested in honesty than diplomacy. Maria met his gaze directly. Honestly, sir, some of them don't want me here. They think having a woman in the unit is a mistake, and they're looking for any excuse to prove it. This morning's shooting helped, but it's going to take more than one good day at the range to change minds. And are you prepared for what that will require? I'm prepared for whatever it takes, sir. Harrison exchanged a look with Captain Williams. Good, because what comes next is going to test more than your marksmanship skills. The tactical exercise began at 600 the next morning in the desert training area, 5 miles outside Camp Phoenix. Maria found herself assigned to Jenkins' squad, along with Rodriguez and 4 other soldiers she barely knew. The mission was straightforward. Assault a mock enemy position, clear the buildings, and secure the objective. Captain Williams stood on a small hill overlooking the training area, Colonel Harrison beside him with binoculars and a tactical radio. Several other officers had joined them, turning what should have been a routine exercise into something that felt more like an evaluation. All right, listen up, Jenkins called out as the squad gathered around a makeshift sand table. The objective is a compound with 3 buildings. Intelligence says 6 to 8 enemy fighters, armed with small arms and possibly explosives. Maria studied the layout, noting potential approach routes, cover positions, and danger areas. The compound was well designed for defense with multiple overlapping fields of fire and limited cover for attacking forces. Santos, Jenkins said, pointing to a position on the map. You'll provide covering fire from this ridge while the rest of us assault the main building. Maria looked at the position he had indicated. It was isolated with poor fields of fire and no way to support the assault team if they got into trouble. It was essentially a place to keep her out of the main action. That position doesn't have line of sight to the objective, Maria pointed out calmly. It has line of sight to the approach route, Jenkins replied curtly. Your job is to watch our backs, not tell me how to run my squad. Rodriguez smirked at the exchange. Don't worry, Santos. We'll handle the dangerous stuff. You just stay back there where it's safe. The comment stung, but Maria kept her expression neutral. She knew what Jenkins was doing, setting her up to fail by giving her a useless assignment, then blaming any problems on her lack of support. Roger that, she said simply. The squad moved out across the desert terrain, using what little cover was available to approach the objective. Maria split off from the group as directed, making her way to the isolated ridge position while the others continued toward the compound. From her position, Maria could see that Jenkins' plan was fundamentally flawed. The assault team would be exposed to fire from multiple directions, and her position offered no way to help them. She could see the exercise controllers positioned around the compound, ready to simulate enemy fire. All units, this is Overwatch, Maria radioed. Assault team, you have enemy positions at your 10 and 2 o'clock that I cannot engage from this position. Overwatch, assault team, Jenkins replied tersely. Maintain your position and follow orders. Maria watched through her rifle scope as Jenkins led his team directly into what any experienced soldier would recognize as a kill zone. The exercise controllers immediately began simulating heavy enemy fire, and within minutes half of Jenkins's assault team had been marked as casualties. Taking heavy fire, Rodriguez shouted over the radio. We need covering fire. Overwatch cannot engage from current position, Maria reported. Recommend you pull back and reassess. Negative, Jenkins yelled back. We're continuing the assault. Maria made a split-second decision. Ignoring her orders, she left her assigned position and moved quickly across the desert toward a small rise that would give her better fields of fire. The move was risky and clearly violated Jenkins's direct orders, but she could see his team was about to be completely wiped out. From her new position, Maria had clear shots at several of the simulated enemy positions. She began engaging targets with rapid, accurate fire, calling out her targets over the radio. Enemy position at grid 2345667 neutralized. Enemy position at grid 234568 neutralized. Her intervention allowed Jenkins's surviving team members to advance and complete the assault. But the exercise ended with heavy simulated casualties and a marginal success at best. Captain Williams and Colonel Harrison approached the squad as they conducted their after-action review. Jenkins was clearly angry, his face red with embarrassment and frustration. Sergeant Santos, Williams said formally, you left your assigned position during the exercise. Yes, sir, Maria replied. I moved to a position where I could provide effective support to the assault team. You were ordered to remain in Overwatch position, Jenkins interjected angrily. You disobeyed a direct order. Williams held up a hand to stop the argument. Let's review what happened. Squad leader, brief me on your plan and execution. Jenkins outlined his plan, emphasizing how Maria's abandonment of her position had compromised the mission. Rodriguez and the other squad members nodded in agreement, presenting a united front against the newcomer. And your assessment, Sergeant Santos? Williams asked. Maria chose her words carefully. The Overwatch position as assigned had no line of sight to the objective and could not provide effective support to the assault team. When the team came under heavy fire, I repositioned to provide covering fire. Without orders, Jenkins added. With the squad taking casualties and requesting fire support, Maria countered. Colonel Harrison had been listening to the exchange with growing interest. Sergeant Santos, show me exactly where you were positioned and where you moved to. Maria led the group to both positions, demonstrating the fields of fire from each location. From the original position, it was obvious that she could not have supported the assault. From her improvised position, she had clear shots at multiple enemy locations. Interesting, Harrison murmured. And your casualty assessment, Captain? Williams consulted his notes. Without Sergeant Santos's fire support, the assault team would have suffered 75% casualties. With her support, casualties were reduced to 30%. But she disobeyed orders, Jenkins protested. Harrison fixed Jenkins with a steady stare. Squad leader, explain your reasoning for placing your Overwatch element in a position where they could not observe or engage the objective. Jenkins struggled for an answer. It was a good position to watch the approach route. The approach route that the enemy couldn't see anyway because of the terrain. Harrison pressed. The silence stretched uncomfortably as Jenkins realized his tactical error was being exposed in front of his superiors and his men. His plan had been designed more to marginalize Maria than to accomplish the mission effectively. Let's move on to the next exercise, Williams said diplomatically, but the damage was done. Jenkins' credibility as a squad leader had been severely undermined. The next exercise was urban combat in a mock village constructed specifically for training. This time, Williams assigned squad leadership to Rodriguez, perhaps hoping for better tactical planning. Rodriguez's approach was more competent than Jenkins, but he made the same fundamental error of trying to keep Maria out of the main action. He assigned her to watch a rear entrance that intelligence indicated was blocked and unused. Santos, you cover the back door, Rodriguez ordered. Make sure nobody gets out that way. Maria examined the building through her binoculars. The rear entrance was not only blocked with debris, but it faced a wall that was only 10 feet away. No one could escape through that route even if the door was open. The rear entrance is blocked, Maria reported. I could be more effective supporting the main assault. Just follow orders, Rodriguez snapped. We don't need you getting in the way. Once again, Maria found herself in a useless position while her squad mates prepared to assault a well-defended objective. And once again, she had to make a choice between following orders that made no tactical sense and helping her team succeed. This time, she decided to stay in position and follow orders exactly as given. She watched through her scope as Rodriguez led his team into another poorly planned assault. Without effective covering fire, they walked into the same type of ambush that had decimated Jenkins' team. The exercise ended even more badly than the first one, with Rodriguez's team suffering complete casualties within the first 5 minutes of the assault. Well, Captain Williams said during the after-action review, that was educational. Colonel Harrison's expression was grim as he surveyed the defeated squad. Gentlemen, you've just demonstrated how personal prejudice can get good soldiers killed. Both squad leaders made the same error. They assigned their most qualified marksman to positions where she couldn't contribute to the mission. Jenkins and Rodriguez looked uncomfortable, but defiant. She's not part of the team, Jenkins muttered. She's not part of the team because you won't let her be part of the team, Harrison replied sharply. And your refusal to use her capabilities cost lives in both exercises. The colonel turned to address the entire squad. In real combat, there are no do-overs. When your brothers are dying because of poor leadership decisions based on prejudice rather than tactical thinking, those deaths are permanent. The weight of his words settled over the group like a heavy blanket. For the first time, some of the soldiers began to look at Maria differently, not as an unwanted outsider, but as a resource that their leaders were failing to utilize. Tomorrow, Williams announced, we'll run the exercises again. This time, Sergeant Santos will be squad leader. The announcement hit the group like a thunderbolt. A woman leading them into combat, even simulated combat, was something none of them had experienced before. Sir, Jenkins protested, she's only been here 2 days. Maria stood before her squad at 0530, the pre-dawn darkness of the desert surrounding them like a shroud. 8 men looked back at her with expressions ranging from skeptical curiosity to outright hostility. Jenkins and Rodriguez stood slightly apart from the others, their body language making their feelings clear. Today's mission is a night raid on a high-value target, Maria began, her voice carrying clearly in the still air. Intelligence indicates an enemy commander is meeting with foreign fighters in a compound 2 clicks north of here. She gestured to the sand table she had prepared, where small rocks and sticks represented buildings, vehicles, and defensive positions. Every detail had been carefully planned, based on her study of the terrain and enemy capabilities. The objective is a 3-building compound with approximately 12 enemy fighters. They have night vision equipment, automatic weapons, and likely explosives. Our mission is to capture or eliminate the HVT and secure any intelligence materials. Private Morrison, one of the younger soldiers, raised his hand tentatively.
Sergeant, how do we know they have night vision?
Because they're still alive, Maria replied simply. Units that operate at night without nods don't survive long out here. We have to assume they can see us coming. She pointed to various positions on the sand table. Rodriguez, you'll take Thompson and Wilson and approach from the east. Your job is to secure the motor pool and prevent any vehicles from escaping. Rodriguez nodded reluctantly. The assignment was important and tactical sound, giving him a chance to prove himself while keeping him away from the main assault. Jenkins, you'll take Morrison and Davis and establish overwatch on this ridge, Maria continued, indicating a position with clear fields of fire over the entire compound. You'll have the best shooting position and the most critical job, keeping the enemy pinned down while the assault team moves in. Jenkins looked surprised. He had expected to be marginalized the way he had marginalized Maria, but instead she was giving him the most important supporting role in the operation. What about you? Jenkins asked suspiciously. Phillips and I will assault the main building where the HVT is believed to be located, Maria said. We'll go in fast and hard while you provide covering fire. Private Phillips, a steady soldier with 2 tours under his belt, nodded his agreement. He seemed relieved to be paired with someone who knew what she was doing. Questions? Maria asked. Rodriguez raised his hand. Why are you taking the most dangerous job? It was a fair question, and Maria could see that all the men were waiting for her answer. A leader who sent others into danger while staying safe would lose their respect immediately. Because it's my plan, my responsibility, and my job as squad leader, Maria replied. If anyone gets killed because of my tactical decisions, it should be me. The simple honesty of her answer seemed to catch the squad off guard. Several soldiers exchanged glances, and she could see some of the hostility beginning to fade. Move out, Maria ordered. Radio check in 5 minutes. The squad spread out across the desert, each element moving toward their assigned positions. Maria and Phillips approached the compound from the south, using a dry creek bed for concealment. The night was clear and cold, with enough starlight to make movement possible without night vision equipment. Overwatch in position, Jenkins reported over the radio. His voice was professional, focused on the mission rather than personal conflicts. Motor pool team in position, Rodriguez added. 2 vehicles visible, both secured. Maria and Phillips crept to within 50 meters of the main building. Through her night vision scope, she could see guards posted at regular intervals, their movements suggesting professional training rather than amateur fighters. This is assault team, Maria whispered into her radio. I count 6 guards visible, probably more inside. Beginning approach in 60 seconds, she turned to Phillips. When we go through that door, everything happens fast. You take left, I take right. Watch for civilians or hostages. Phillips nodded, checking his weapon one final time. Ready when you are, Sergeant. Maria took a deep breath, visualizing the layout of the building based on their intelligence briefing. Room clearing was dangerous work that required perfect coordination between team members. One mistake could get both of them killed. All units, assault team is moving, she radioed. Execute on my mark. Maria and Phillips sprinted across the open ground toward the main building. Immediately, Jenkins' Overwatch team opened fire on the guards, their shots precise and devastating. 2 guards dropped before they could even raise their weapons. Suppressing fire, Jenkins called out. You're clear to the door. Maria reached the entrance first, checking for booby traps before signaling Phillips to stack up behind her. On her count of 3, she kicked open the door and both soldiers flowed into the building with practiced efficiency. The interior was exactly as intelligence had described, a central room with 2 smaller rooms branching off. Maria went right while Phillips cleared left, their movements synchronized despite having never worked together before. Room clear, Phillips called out. Room clear, Maria echoed. They moved to the next room where Maria could hear voices speaking in a foreign language. She held up 2 fingers to Phillips, indicating multiple targets, then pointed to the door. This time Phillips took the lead, Maria following closely behind. They burst through the door to find 3 men hunched over a table covered with maps and documents. One reached for a weapon, but Maria's training took over. Don't move, she shouted, her rifle aimed at the center target. Hands up! 2 of the men complied immediately, but the third continued reaching for his pistol. Maria fired once, the shot precise and final. The man collapsed and the room fell silent except for the sound of her heart pounding. HVT secured, Maria reported over the radio. 2 prisoners, 1 KIA. Phillips, start collecting those documents. Roger that, Phillips replied, already moving to secure the intelligence materials scattered across the table. Outside, the sound of gunfire was decreasing as Jenkins' Overwatch team eliminated the remaining guards. Rodriguez reported that the motor pool was secure and no vehicles had attempted to escape. All units, objective secured, Maria announced. Prepare for extraction. The entire operation had taken less than 15 minutes from start to finish. As the squad regrouped at the extraction point, Maria could see a change in how the men looked at her. The skepticism was gone, replaced by something that looked like respect. Damn, Morrison said quietly. That was textbook. Better than textbook, Phillips added. That was real leadership. Even Jenkins seemed grudgingly impressed. Good plan, good execution, he admitted. I haven't seen a raid run that smoothly since my last deployment. Captain Williams and Colonel Harrison were waiting at the extraction point, along with the exercise controllers who had monitored the entire operation. Their expressions were unreadable as the squad approached. Mission report. Sergeant Santos, Williams ordered. Objective secured, HVT captured. Intelligence materials recovered, Maria reported crisply. 2 enemy prisoners, remaining enemy forces eliminated. No friendly casualties. Colonel Harrison consulted his notes. Exercise controllers report a flawless execution. Minimal time on target. Perfect coordination between elements and textbook room clearing techniques. He looked up from his clipboard to address the entire squad. Gentlemen, you've just participated in one of the most successful training exercises we've conducted at this facility. Your squad leader demonstrated exceptional tactical planning and personal courage. The praise felt good, but Maria knew the real test was yet to come. Success in training was one thing. Acceptance by her peers was another. Santos, Jenkins said as they prepared to return to base. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. That tattoo on your shoulder that everyone keeps talking about. What is it? Maria hesitated. The tattoo was personal, meaningful in ways that most people wouldn't understand, but looking at the faces of her squad mates, she realized they were asking as soldiers, not as adversaries. It's a guardian angel, she said quietly, with the names of the children I saved in Afghanistan. The silence that followed was different from the hostile quiet she had experienced before. This was the silence of respect, of understanding, of soldiers recognizing one of their own. 17 names? Phillips asked. 17 names, Maria confirmed. Rodriguez stepped forward, his earlier animosity completely gone. I owe you an apology, Sergeant, we all do. We judged you based on lies and prejudice instead of your actions. We're soldiers, Maria replied simply. We judge each other by what we do, not what people say about us. Today you all did your jobs professionally and courageously. That's what matters. As they loaded into the transport vehicles for the return to base, Maria felt something she hadn't experienced in months, the sense of belonging to a real team. But she knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, and not everyone at Camp Phoenix would be as easily convinced as her squad. The hardest test was still to come, and it would require more than just tactical excellence to overcome. It would require something much more personal, something that went to the very heart of who she was as a soldier and as a person. 3 weeks later, Maria found herself in the medical tent having her annual physical examination. Dr. Sarah Chen, the base physician, was thorough and professional as she documented various scars and marks for Maria's medical record. I'll need you to remove your shirt for the chest and back examination, Dr. Chen said matter-of-factly. Maria hesitated for a moment, then pulled off her uniform shirt. The doctor's examination was routine until she reached Maria's right shoulder, where an intricate tattoo covered most of the area from shoulder to upper arm. The tattoo was a masterpiece of artistic detail, a guardian angel with outstretched wings, her face serene and protective. But what made it truly remarkable were the 17 small names written in elegant script along the angel's wings and robes. Each name was in a different handwriting style, as if written by children. That's extraordinary, Dr. Chen said softly. May I ask about the significance? Maria's voice was quiet as she explained. Each name represents a child I helped evacuate from a school in Afghanistan. They wrote their own names on paper before I left the village. I had the tattoo artist copy their exact handwriting. Dr. Chen continued her examination, but Maria could see she was moved by the story. As the doctor finished her notes, the tent flap suddenly opened. "Doc, we need you to—" "Oh." General Robert Castellanos stood in the entrance, his silver stars gleaming in the medical tent's bright lights. He was a tall man with commanding presence, known throughout the military for his tough but fair leadership style. He had stopped mid-sentence when he saw Maria's exposed tattoo. "Excuse me," the general said, stepping fully into the tent. "I didn't mean to interrupt, but I couldn't help noticing." He gestured toward Maria's shoulder. Dr. Chen looked between Maria and the general uncertainly. "Sir, if you could give us a few minutes to complete the examination." "Actually, Doctor, I'd like to hear about this tattoo, if the sergeant doesn't mind sharing." Maria quickly pulled her shirt back on, coming to attention despite being in the medical tent. "Sir, it's a personal memorial to some children I served with in Afghanistan." General Castellanos studied her with the intense gaze that had made him legendary among soldiers. "At ease, Sergeant. Tell me about these children." Maria found herself recounting the story she had told so many times before. The school, the attack, the rescue, the explosion. But this time felt different. The general listened without interruption, his expression growing more serious with each detail. 17 children, he said when she finished. "All survived?" "Yes, sir. All 17. And you carried each one of them out personally?" "Yes, sir. The windows were too high for them to climb out alone." General Castellanos was quiet for a long moment, his eyes moving from Maria's face to her scarred arm and back again. "Doctor, could you give us some privacy?" Dr. Chen quickly gathered her notes and left the tent, leaving Maria alone with one of the most powerful officers in the military. "Sergeant Santos, I've been reviewing your file. There seem to be some discrepancies in the various reports about your service in Afghanistan." Maria's heart sank. She had hoped that her performance at Camp Phoenix might finally put the false rumors to rest. But apparently they had followed her even here. "Sir, I can only tell you what actually happened." "I'm sure you can. But what I'm more interested in is why the true story has been suppressed while a false narrative has been allowed to spread." The general pulled out a thick folder from his briefcase. "This contains the original incident report filed by your commanding officer in Afghanistan, Colonel Davis. It recommends you for the Bronze Star with Valor. It also contains sworn statements from 3 other soldiers who witnessed your actions that day." Maria listened in amazement as the general continued. "This folder also contains communications from certain Pentagon officials arguing that your heroism should be downplayed because it doesn't fit their preferred narrative about women in combat. They wanted your story buried." The general's voice grew harder as he spoke. "What they didn't count on was someone like me getting involved. Someone who believes that heroism should be recognized regardless of the hero's gender." He opened the folder and withdrew a small blue box that Maria recognized immediately. It was the distinctive case that held military decorations. "Sergeant Maria Santos," General Castellanos said formally, "by order of the President of the United States and by direction of the Secretary of the Army, you are hereby awarded the Bronze Star Medal with Valor device for heroic achievement in ground combat against an armed enemy." Maria stared at the medal in disbelief. After 2 years of transfers, rumors, and career damage, she was finally receiving the recognition that should have come immediately after her actions in Afghanistan. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything yet. There's more." The general withdrew another document from the folder. "You're also being promoted to staff sergeant effective immediately." The promotion was equally unexpected. Maria had been passed over for advancement twice, each time being told that her record showed inconsistencies that needed to be resolved. "Furthermore," the general continued, "you're being transferred to my personal staff at the Pentagon. I need soldiers who can think under pressure and lead by example. Your performance here at Camp Phoenix has been exemplary." Maria felt overwhelmed by the sudden change in her fortunes. 3 weeks ago, she had been a pariah facing skeptical soldiers and false accusations. Now she was being decorated, promoted, and offered a prestigious assignment. "There's one condition," General Castellanos added. "I want you to tell your story. The real story. I want other female soldiers to know that heroism is recognized in this military, even when some people try to bury it. I understand." "Sir?" The general pinned the Bronze Star to Maria's uniform with practiced precision. "This medal represents more than your actions in Afghanistan, Sergeant. It represents the courage to keep serving despite unfair treatment, to keep proving yourself even when you shouldn't have to. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. Thank those 17 children whose names you carry on your shoulder. They're the ones who made you a hero. As the general prepared to leave, he paused at the tent entrance. One more thing, Sergeant. Captain Williams tells me that your squad here has requested to have you as their permanent leader. Apparently Jenkins and Rodriguez both recommended you for promotion. Maria was stunned. The same soldiers who had mocked her scars and doubted her courage were now advocating for her advancement. People can change, Sergeant. Sometimes all it takes is seeing the truth instead of believing lies. That evening, Maria sat in the base recreation area, her new bronze star safely stored in her locker, but the weight of it still heavy on her mind. Jenkins approached her table looking uncharacteristically humble. Heard about your promotion, he said. Congratulations. You earned it. Thank you. Jenkins sat down across from her, his expression serious. I owe you more than an apology, Santos. I owe you an explanation. You don't owe me anything. Yes, I do. The reason I gave you such a hard time when you first got here, it wasn't really about you being a woman. It was about me being scared. Maria looked at him with surprise. Scared of what? Scared of not measuring up. When I heard you were coming, I also heard you were some kind of hero. I was afraid that having you in the unit would make the rest of us look bad by comparison. Jenkins stared at his hands as he continued. So instead of trying to be a better soldier, I tried to tear you down. I spread the rumors, encouraged the others to doubt you, set you up to fail in training. Why are you telling me this? Because watching you lead these past few weeks has taught me something important. Real leaders don't tear others down to build themselves up. They lift everyone around them. Rodriguez appeared at their table along with Phillips and Morrison. They all looked as serious as Jenkins. We wanted to apologize together, Rodriguez said. All of us. We let prejudice and fear turn us into something we're not proud of. Phillips nodded. You could have made us pay for that. Could have made us look bad in front of the officers. Could have gotten us in serious trouble. Instead, you just focused on making us better soldiers. That's what good leaders do, Morrison added. And that's what you are. A good leader. Maria looked around the table at these men who had once been her tormentors and were now her strongest supporters. We're all good soldiers. We just needed to remember what that means. As the group talked late into the evening, sharing stories and building the bonds that would last long after their military service ended, Maria reflected on the journey that had brought her here. The scars on her arm would always remind her of the price of heroism, but the names tattooed on her shoulder would remind her of why that price was worth paying. The next morning, Maria would begin preparing for her new assignment at the Pentagon, where she would work to ensure that other female soldiers wouldn't face the obstacles she had overcome. But tonight she was simply a soldier among soldiers, finally home where she belonged. The mockery was gone, replaced by respect. The doubt was gone, replaced by trust. And the lies were gone, replaced by the truth that heroism comes in many forms, wearing many faces, bearing many scars, but always, always worth recognizing and celebrating.